Welcome back, everybody, to another Sunday evening bike nerdy live stream. And we've got an awesome guest today. We're going to be talking with Brian Chapman of Chapman Cycles. And I'll give you a sneak peek at some of his work. We're going to get fancy here. Oh, no, we're going to get fancy here and use all the capabilities of the video switcher. So what's cool about Brian is he just has just beautiful looking bikes, and he's also been posting some process videos just to show his customers and other people afar like what really goes into a hand-built bike, and I think he does it really well. But before we get to that, I do want to thank our Patreon supporters that keep the lights on. And as always, guys, if you dig this content, take a quick visit to the merch store. We've got some fun stickers. We've got a Bridgestone-inspired party paste patch. I just put up some new postcards. I'll give you a quick peek at them. Probably the only bike YouTuber that also sells watercolor postcards. This one's been a really popular one. But all that to say, all of these things really help out the channel if you're digging the content. With that, let's meet our guest, Brian. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Nice. So I assume that we're in your workspace and not your living room.
Yes, we are out in my backyard in my shed that doubles as a shop.
Nice. So for those that might not be familiar with the type of bikes that you build, can you just give people a quick overview?
Well, nowadays I build a lot of like randonneur touring, light touring bikes, integrated racks, dynamos, lights, and that kind of stuff. But it's not, I wouldn't, to use a double negative, I wouldn't not build a road bike, or I don't know. So I wouldn't not build a mountain bike, but I don't even know what to call it, because all the, there's like bikes that I'll build that have what I define as big tires, and
right.
And they could be ridden on mountain trails. Is it a mountain bike? Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, mostly like light touring stuff.
Right. So for those that might not be familiar, I'm going to switch to your Instagram here with what a randonneuring bike is. Like, what are the qualities of a randonneuring bike that make it a randonneuring bike?
Well, maybe my definition might differ from others, but it means, just to me, a lot of integrated components, like the racks, on that one in particular, the racks, the low riders, the lighting, the dynamo, sometimes like a dynamo charging device, the pump on the seat stay, and it's not a super aggressive geometry bike. It's a bike that is meant to be ridden for long periods of time, and the ones I build are like for more mixed terrain, like so dirt and pavement, or whatever you can throw at it. So yeah, that encompasses my definition. It might be different for other builders and people, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah. But I assume that they're so they've got a lot of utility and function to them with the racks, but they're not like a full-blown like touring bike, right?
Not like the one you just showed. Not a full-blown touring bike. If it had, it's all it needs to, like, for me, is like a rear rack and maybe some heavier duty tubing, and then it's like a full-blown touring bike. Maybe a third water bottle boss. Who knows? Actually, I think that one has one. But yeah, it's really a blurred line there, huh?
Yeah. So for do you make the racks yourself as well?
I do. Those are fillet brazed chromoly, and yeah, they're all built like specific to the bike. There's like zero adjustment, so it's like there they are, and that's how it's going to be, and you can't do anything about it. Well, you can use them.
Every time I look at a rack, it's got so many bends and welds. Is it as complicated as an actual bike frame, or more complicated?
In the sense that the more of them they take a long time to make. There's just a lot of bends. I'm not gonna lie, but like the more I do them, the faster I get. But I'm still not super fast. Like, I think I've plateaued in terms of like how fast I can build something, because like I'm really it's not that I'm trying to take my time, because I have like stuff that I need to get done, but yeah, it's like for like the handlebar rack, like the handlebar bag rack, like that'll take me a day probably to do that with the light mount and the wire guides. And then the low riders will probably be another 2 days. And then there's like this whole like maybe 3 hours of me just staring at it, thinking like, did I do enough finish work for the chrome plater before I send it off? Because everything's visible under the chrome. So I just like make sure it looks nice. And then, yeah, and then inevitably I always just go back and touch something up or, but yeah, I've become better at like letting things go, like file marks and stuff. But to answer your question, it is a lot of bends and joints, but someone said one time that they're super complex, and I was like, I don't know. It looks really simple. You just unbolt those 3 things and they come apart. But I mean, maybe they look complex, like a little jungle gym.
Right. Do you have set designs for racks or jigs, or is each rack kind of like its own creation?
Yeah, the fork is the jig, I guess, the fixture for building. Yeah, I build so I have a rack that I gotta start it tomorrow, and I have the fork done, and that's like the first step. So I gotta have the fork and the brazons where things are gonna connect. I usually have like on that one, the rack connect to the cantilever bosses to kind of make things tidy, not to have too many. There's already a lot of brazons happening on that fork, but yeah, just to try to keep it as simple as possible.
Right. I listened to your interview with Joe from Cobra Frame Building, and you guys talked a little bit about fabricating some of your own components, like brakes. Are these brakes that you built?
No, those are just some Diacomp DC 980s. I think I really like the look of them. I don't know if they stop very well. They're okay. I think you need like really good pads if you're going to use those. I mean, that might speak to a lot of cantilevers, but I really. It sounds really shallow, but I really like the look of them. They look so cool. They actually Campagnolo back in like 2012 or 11 made cantilever brakes, or I think they had Tektro make them for them or something like that. But anyway, they were like beautiful. And then I saw these and I was like, oh, those are like the same brake, but they're like, I mean, they're like half the price. It's amazing. So.
I do love the look of cantilevers. I've never been very good at setting them up.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're probably fine. They probably just work that way.
Yeah,
But the ones I make, to answer your question, are like on that champagne colored bike are the ones that like I've made, and the crank sets and like the stems and I don't know, just hangers and little things. Yeah, cool stop salmon pads. Whoever said that. I mean, I sent those to the customer, and he's like, I don't know. And then my friend Jim and I were we had a little ride yesterday, and I had him because he has those same brakes, and I had him also just cut me off if I start to like.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have these like Cool Stop makes these flatland pads, which are for like flatland BMXers, and they have this like super soft compound. That's a hot tip for anyone who's listening right now, and you want brakes that really grip on like a silver rim. It's like the Cool Stop Salmon. Of course, now I'm not even going to tell you where I can find them because I got to go buy them up first.
I know. Definitely don't go here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Has COVID and supply chain issues affected the materials that you can get for building bikes?
For building bikes, not so much. Like tubing.
It's not stuck in the Suez Canal at the moment.
No, it's not lodged in the Suez. It's I'm actually like kind of like a frame builder hoarder of sorts. Like I have like drawers and drawers of tubing and lugs, and I if there's an opportunity, I kind of always buy more just to have it for fears of like not being able to have it. And so I haven't really had to order too much. But the supply chains from Italy for Columbus or from the UK from I order like Reynolds and stuff from Seaway in the UK, and they maybe they hoarded too. I don't know, but there was always stuff available.
Yeah. How about components? Is that like cranks?
Oh yeah, it's a whole different. Yeah, no, there's nothing. There's nothing available. It's you can do Sunrace. No, I don't know. So I also hoarded a lot of components, and you'll see on like if you look at the bikes I build, you're like, man, that guy really likes that Dura Ace derailleur, because like I have a drawer of that Dura Ace derailleur, and
Nice.
so it's a good
So
one.
when the apocalypse comes and you need bike parts, you know,
Yeah.
Nondescript location. Okay.
Yes.
So you've been building bikes for a long time. I think with their interview with Joe, you started around 2004. Is that correct? Like, yeah. And it seemed like you cut your teeth, doing some painting and also learning from this. It sounds like an awesome bike collective, Circle A. Can you tell us about that? That shop.
Yeah.
I saw that their website's still up.
Yeah. Chris has not shut that down. And I mean, I think he does still have his fixtures, and he's probably another guy who has a stockpile of tubing here in Providence. Well, I'm in Patuxent Village. He's just north of me in Providence. And so he could probably start up like at the drop of a hat, but he's a very talented physics teacher. So he's doing his thing there. But Circle A started in Worcester, Massachusetts at Hot Tubes. Chris he had cut his teeth there with Toby Stanton, and then moved his shop to Providence. He built bikes in Worcester at the Hot Tube shop, and then he moved his shop to Worcester from Worcester which is in Massachusetts. Sorry if anyone's everyone here is from Massachusetts or Rhode Island, right? That's my mentality. So in 2001. And he moved to this place on Carpenter Street in Providence. And I lived on Carpenter Street in Providence. It was like insane. It was crazy that I was like, I found out, I was like, there's like a guy building custom bikes down the street from me. I'm like, what? So one day I walk over there and I meet him and we hit it off, and we hang out, and eventually like we start riding together, and then I get a bike from him. It was a fixie because it was like 2002 at the time. And then I was racing road too on my Klein Quantum. And I ended up getting a steel road bike from him in 2003. And when he was building it, I was like, I want to see what's going on. I want to like know how you did everything, because I want to do this. And he was like, oh yeah. And he was so welcoming and open and awesome. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that whole experience of buying two bikes from him. So I bought the second frame set, and he let me kind of like watch what was going on, like carve the lugs. And I mean, to him it's like, this is boring, but like to other people watching, I'm just like, no, it's not. I was like, I see what you're doing. It's like I'm just like taking it all in. And then eventually we still riding together, but I ended up working there, apprenticing there for 2 years essentially, of doing paint work and like repair work and just all the stuff that frame builders don't want to do, that's like hanging in the shop. They're like, yeah, I guess I could use some help. But yeah, and then they take this old, I remember I didn't know anything about TIG welding. No, I still am not a very good TIG welder, but he was like, this is a great way to learn TIG welding. And he took down the GT triple triangle to Kesta or something. And he was like, the down tubes rusted out or something, or it was cut off because someone cut it off to get a U-lock out or something. I was like, oh, great. And he's like, put a down tube in this. I'm like, okay. And then I'm sitting there. It takes me a day and a half, but eventually I get the down tube, and I'm like sticking, what do you call it there? Sorry, I'm turning off my phone here. Sticking the tungsten right to the steel. I'm just like so frustrated. But his way of teaching was great, because he just let me make all the mistakes, like every mistake. And I was so fortunate to be able to do that at his shop. And then, come 2005, I was like allowed to build a bike for a friend. And so I built my first bike, and then I was working there and at Brown University simultaneously until 2007, when I paid off my school loans finally and my car loan. And I was like, I'm free. And I ended up just quitting my job and then doing this other job that was like 10 times harder and it made much less money. 10 times less money. Great.
Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Was it a good, I don't know if it was a good move or not, but it made me really hustle. So those first years, like I remember by 2009, I was building 25 bikes or frame sets, and I would do like almost 100 paint jobs. Like I'd be just like, just like in there, and I loved it. And then I was like, I want to build something else too. So, and then, yeah.
So you're mentioning like one of the neat things about your gram is that you do show a lot of process stuff. Has the tables turned where, you know, you share something like this, which seems like super boring, and you're amazed that people like 10,000, like 101,000 people watch it?
Yeah, it is boring. But people, I think, you know what I think people like is the editing. I think because it's like, it looks like it takes like 40 seconds to do. And it's like, and then here I am, I'm like, don't move the camera, don't kick the tripod, don't move the bike. Because I have to like take the bike out of the stand and then soak off the flux and then bring it back and do all this other stuff without. But I have fun doing that. And the reason I like show even the boring stuff, because I remember that time at Circle A and I was like, even the boring stuff might be cool. I don't know.
Yeah. When did you start posting these process videos on Instagram?
I don't know. Maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. I just like, because so at Circle A, I would do like a slideshow, like of the entire build from start to finish. Every bike I ever built there. There was like a couple hundred maybe or something at the most. I think it was like 150 bikes. And then, but I would do this slideshow, and it was a lot of work, and it was in Flash because, you know, that was super used in the and so I had these like all these slideshows, and then I'm like, no one's ever gonna see these like process shots. And I was like, so I started like trying to use Flickr, and then like I would upload them to Facebook. But then in like 2013, I think I joined Instagram, and then I was like,
you found your medium.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'll just try and post like some process shots here, so at least people know that I'm working on their bike, because like people don't know what the heck I'm doing in the shop. And I was like, maybe I should share what I'm doing so they know I'm actually working. And so I started to post, and now I don't post often. I maybe like post the process videos, maybe like one a week or something, and to me, they're always kind of like boring. And I'm just like, how do I make this interesting? But I think I just make it interesting by editing out the extra boring parts.
Right. Well, let's talk about this video here. What's going on in this one? I'm going to
so that one, I'm at the lathe making, it's this little spacer that I'm making out of aluminum for this crankset that I made. That's like it's a profile racing BMX inspired crankset, but I made a 50.4 bolt pattern, so it takes TA rings. And the reason you need a spacer is because it's a compression system where the bearings, there's a spacer in the bottom bracket that the bearings push against, and then the spacers on the outside push against that. So it's like this big crank sandwich, and or bottom bracket sandwich, and it's and then that's on there pretty good, enough for BMX bikes, and so enough for road too. And it's light. I feel like I need to state that they're not tanks. They're not like super heavy cranks. It's all titanium hardware, titanium spindle, 19mm spindle, hollow, and so they weigh about as much as like a standard road crankset.
Yeah. I had heard, you talked quite a bit about BMX, both with your interview with Joe and also the interview with Nam and Cheech. And it sounds like you integrate, you know, your initial love of BMX into these current bikes. Like, what other BMX parts land on your bikes that people may not be aware of?
So wait, what parts might be BMX related on the builds?
Yeah.
Is that what you asked? Or
yeah, like I'd heard like you were talking about some kind of spring for a brake that was used by flatlanders.
So I rode flatland, or I still do. I'm not very. I don't progress anymore because I'm 47, so I'll be like, my back can only take so much. But I started riding BMX in like racing in 84, and then like doing flatland tricks and stuff in 85. And so all the watching or experiencing all the BMX developments throughout the 80s, it was like, I mean, it was like the mountain bike developments in the 90s where everyone's like doing like, it was like, I got a friend who's a machinist, I can make some brakes. And then just all those innovations, a lot of failures in those innovations, but there's a lot of good stuff that came out, like those adjusters for the flatland bikes that Diatech produced, and I hoarded. And and then so things like the crankset are other like ways that I can build a crankset. Not that I have to build a crankset, but like I wanted to. And so that was the way I figured out, because this guy at Solid Bikes was making the spindle bosses, the broached spindle bosses and the pedal bosses. And I was like, oh, this could be fun. So here I am.
Nice.
Making stuff.
Cool. Well, we've got 178 people in the YouTube comments. If you guys have a question for Brian, throw it up in the comments. And if you're digging the video so far, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Let's see. Is there any recent picture that I'm scrolling through that you'd want to talk about?
Well, just a picture. I mean,
or a video or something like something that would be fun to highlight.
You pick one that looks good, and I'll go on about it.
Okay.
Could be a riding photo. Could be.
I saw that this one caught my eye. So how'd this come about?
Oh boy. So because I wanted to make something, and I started making. I was fascinated with Charlie Cunningham's lever link brakes, and roller cam, and just basically everything WTB and Charlie Cunningham. I was just kind of like, this guy is on another level. He was like, I don't know where his mind is, but I'm like, I can kind of relate. And so I was like, I'm gonna make some crazy brakes, and I was like, but I'm gonna ask permission, because it's not my brake, it's not my design. And I was like, I'm not gonna like go into production, but like I just wanted to make it. And so I had looked up Charlie, and I didn't know at the time that he had a bad mountain bike accident, and had serious head trauma, and he's recovering, but he's not working, he's not building brakes. And so I contacted Jackie through her GoFundMe, or the GoFundMe for Charlie, and as she's his partner and full-time caregiver, and I asked her, and she likes to talk, and I like to talk, and we were just talking, and I was just, and she was like, yeah, go ahead, build the brakes, great, that sounds awesome. And then while we were talking, we found out we had mutual friends, a mutual friend up in Boston, Mark Elliott, and he's awesome guy. I've made bikes for him, and I don't know, he might have put a bug in her ear because he's a sweetheart, but then she asked me to make her kind of like a light touring randonneur bike, and so that's where that began. And I was just, when she asked, I was like, is this real? I was like, I know you have like amazing bicycles. I was like, I'll do my best to like be able to be, just to be able to fit in over at the stable there, whatever. So that was like, that bike really helped me through like the hard times of COVID too, because that was I think I started it in like May or June. My son, who was 4, was out of school, and so it's like 4-year-olds aren't like, you don't just put them on an iPad and run away. I mean, it's like a full, that itself is a full-time job. So we spent so much awesome time together, and then my partner Hillary and I would just split the time, and I would get to work like 3 hours in the shop each day. And when I would just go in there and I'd just focus on one small thing, whether it's like sometimes it was the brakes, sometimes it was making the crankset, making the stem, making the racks. It was just like, and then just the painting, the bilaminate head tube and the seat lug, and the fork was this crust crown that I just totally cut to pieces essentially, and used that. And because Jackie's friends with Cheech and Matt, so it's it was just like, and on the brakes, Jackie sent me a couple linkages to integrate in with the brakes, and so I put those on there. So Charlie is in that bike, and Joe Roggenbuck from the Cobra Frame Building in the podcast there, the Frame Builder podcast. Why am I blanking right now? I apologize. So he cut the arms out, and my friend Ryan. It was like a big team effort. That bike took me a long time to make, and I was very proud of it, the way it came out. And I hope she likes it. I think she does. Yeah. She said she does. She says it's too precious.
Color.
Yeah. Mark helped me with the color too, because she was like, "Oh, just pick a color." And I was like,
"Right." It's like, no. There's like a color.
There's more to it.
We got a fun question here from Simon Firth. I think he used to build with a Blinky.
I know Simon.
He says, ask him about the bottom bracket he uses with the cranks he makes. Is there like an inside joke there?
So on the cranks I made for the tandem, I used a Spanish bottom bracket, which is that's funny that if he remembers, if he's talking about that specific one. But the tandem that's up there has the 19 millimeter spindle, but it has these cups that the bearings just slide into. They're 37 millimeter bearings with a 19 ID, and they just slide in and they push against like a ridge, and it's like now they call it mid, which is the BMX standard, but Spanish, which was developed by Fly Bikes out of Spain, was the one that really made the most sense for me and this application. I was like, I'm going to use it. Now it's like totally obsolete, but like, so that's,
you have a stockpile somewhere, right?
Yeah. I'll be at the lathe making Spanish bottom brackets. Nice. But yeah, that was the first and last time I used that, and I used 2 of them because it's a tandem.
Yeah. Let's see if we can find another fun pick here. So what's going on here?
So this
looks.
that's me cutting apart a frame to put it back together. I do that. There's like a bunch of ways to do what's called a bilaminate, which is like a fillet brazed frame with like a lug edge. It's mostly done for aesthetics. It's only done for aesthetics. It's pretty much, I mean, maybe there's like some strength added there, mostly because there's a little more material. But so the way I do it is I'll build a fillet brazed front end with like an oversized head tube, and I use the fillets that I put down. I'll finish the fillets that as a guide for my lug, and then I cut away at what's there and end up with like that really sharp, rugged looking head tube, and then I'll just sand and file and do the time consuming stuff, and then put a new head tube in, and put another head tube in, and then finish that one. It's like extra work just to do a thing. There's like some people just have like the little rings made, or some people will use a lug and just cut off the socket and then just build up brass over it and file it away. But I did it this way the first time, and now it's the way I do it. It's just that I don't know. I don't get requests for this too much, or I didn't. But now it's like people are like, "Oh yeah, how much extra is the bilam?" And I'm like, not enough.
I imagine, like, just watching these process vids, a lot of these seemingly small or simple things take a lot of time. You have to enjoy the process, right?
Yeah, it is. I do. It's fun. I mean, I like I like making stuff. I like and I do like even sanding. Like I find that fun. Like I just enjoy like everything. It's very therapeutic. So one thing I'd like to mention, like there's no reason to do a bilam unless there's like what am I trying to say? Like geometry constraints that you can't overcome when building with lugs. So you're free to do any geometry you want with like a bilam or fillet braced or welded bike. So that's mostly the reason I chose it to do it. There's a sloping top tube on this one, and there's some other non-standard stuff there, but yeah, it's so that's the reason I did it. I like to have a reason to do things. I don't want to do things just for willy-nilly, just for looks or whatever.
Yeah. So you work mostly in lug construction for the bikes?
Yeah, I think I would say so. Yeah, lugged, fillet brazed, no welded frames because my welds are like they're hideous. They're hideous.
Yeah.
And the standards are so high these days for all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you do the paint as well? Like
I do. Yeah. Like not just the detail paint, but the primer, the base. Next to my shop, like attached but not attached. It's not like paint fumes in here. In like a separate section, I built a paint booth and do all the painting out there. I don't paint many bikes, just to clarify, and I don't take on extra paint work. I'm not like, I try not to. At least one time I did like a Raleigh conversion for a friend who asked me like years and years ago, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. I'm gonna get it done. And it was fun, actually. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I do maybe in a good year I'll build a bike a month.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a good year in a while, but there's around 10 or 11 maybe. It depends on the bikes too. Some of them are like crazy intense.
Yeah. What is, like, when you're doing this pinstriping, what's the margin for error here? Like, if you have a oopsie, can you wipe it off, or is it your
I do. I don't. I mean, I sorry. I do have oopsies. I don't wipe them off because like there's like this like if you look at the close-ups of them, they're not perfect. There's just like the line will go past, and I think it's important to leave it for some reason. In my heart, like I think you need to see that there's a little bit of handmade something or other in this bike, and there's a lot. Right. But like I think my friend Sam called it evidence of process, and I liked that. That's why I sometimes like I don't mind a couple file marks on racks or rear dropouts, but like on on a fillet though, for some reason they need to be smooth. Like I just want it to be a molded kind of looking thing. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we've got 211 people in the chat. If you guys have questions for Brian, put them in the little chat box. I'll pass them on so you can answer them. And if you guys are digging the video so far, give it a thumbs up. Let's see what this one. So this looks like you're constructing a rack.
Yeah, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Yeah, that I think I'm putting on like, I can't even see. No, I'm making a rack. Yeah, that was for a single speed I made last year. But yeah, it's again, the rack is weird. Like those miters right there, I just like that I did in like a second. Take me like 20 minutes because it's such a weird, like complex miter, because I like my tombstone, like the back part of the rack, to be parallel to the head tube, right, for my brain. And then that it makes like the most complex miter in the world, but I'm getting better at it. Yeah, and then there's like a big pile of brass that I'll make into like molded thing, and it looks great when it's chrome plated or finished.
Nice. Well, let's talk about bike geometry a little bit. Do you have set geometries for your bike, or do you adjust given certain requests, or do you have geometries that you base off of historical bikes? Like, how do you work out the numbers?
I don't really go historical too much, but I do change the geometry for every bicycle. Like every bicycle is different pretty much. There's certain consistencies that I want, well, I don't want toe overlap if there's like a fender and like a bigger tire, and I want to make sure the front center is long enough. I don't like super low trail bicycles. I don't like the way they handle, because I mean, I just don't. So, but I mean, I could probably get into that. Could probably.
It's okay. I don't think Jan's in the chat.
Okay. Okay. No, I don't. I do. I guess what some would call mid trail. It's just like low enough to make sure that I don't have to, overlap, and that the stem is like that. There's a certain amount of like balance in the bicycle, and it's a perfect fit. Like I don't want to have like a super long top tube and like I don't know. I don't want to have like a super shallow head tube angle. It depends what the bike's used for too. Like if it's going to be on trails, yeah, shallow head tube angle is great. But if it is a rando bike and you're doing brevets, you probably don't want like a 71-degree head tube angle or whatever. So yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff to take into consideration for every build.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's cruise the gram some more. Is there like you've been building frames for a while. If there was any kind of bit of advice you would give your younger self back in 2005, what would you tell yourself that you've learned now?
Oh, just
keep hoarding parts.
Yeah. So, it's well, I would say just keep doing what you're doing, kid, because like it turned out like I'm fine with like the way things are right now. I'm not like, I don't make a lot of bikes. I don't have hardly any overhead. And I like it like that. I try to lay low as best I can and just do what I do. I don't know. I think you asked Georgina that question, Georgina Terry, and she had a great answer of just like, do it. Just be yourself. Follow your dreams. Kind of like, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, that's scary. But yeah, she's probably right. Not probably, she's definitely right. And I mean, I think that's what a lot of people would say about like, I mean, that's the advice I'm going to try to give to my son is like, just, find your thing and just really pursue it and do it the best you can and have fun with it. Wow, that's what I would tell myself and my son.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something interesting, like when you first started the business or when you're younger and you're just getting into a trade or something, you have a startup mentality, right? So your tolerance for risk might be a little bit larger. You kind of care less about what people think because you're not fully established. You don't have a ton to lose, and you're still in that kind of discovery phase of what you like to do and what you're good at. And it seems as if, I've noticed this too, even on the YouTube channel, as I get older, looking back at the things I did, like cranking out, 250 videos in a year. It's like, holy cow, I can't believe I did that. Or, did all these dumb ideas just to see where they would go. But you lose that a little bit, I think. Or some people lose that a little bit as they get older or get further along in the business.
I think you're right. In regards to like, I don't want to like divert from what I'm doing right now. And it has a lot to do with like, I have this list of people who want bikes and I need to build them. And they're all very similar bikes because like I've learned that if you build it, someone might want it. So like you end up doing a lot of the, like if you build a lot of the same thing, you're just going to keep doing that thing for a long time. I mean, until you mix it up, like intentionally for somehow, I try to mix things up for myself all the time and challenge myself to make even like a tiny thing, like I'm making a mixty right now, or is it a step through? And I don't,
double tubes.
Yeah, that's our second bonus interview. So for the rear brake on a mixty, it's really, I mean, there's like a dozen ways of how you can get the cable, where you can put the studs, what kind of brake you can use. So on this one, it's cantilever brakes, and I've done in the past, I've done pulleys because I'm like, I was like, my mechanical background's like, ooh, I get to make a pulley on the lathe. That's fun. But then this time I'm like, I'm going to make a bell crank. And I'm like, so I'm like looking around all the shop for like, whatever, just something to use. And I found this like old Z series Shimano derailleur from the 80s. And I took it apart, and like the one part of like where the pinch bolt is like perfect. And I was like, oh, this is the perfect length of, so I'm integrating this like derailleur scrap into the latest build. I shouldn't have called it scrap, but like this whatever, this part from this vintage derailleur. And
Right.
And now everyone who's listening to this will know the secret source of this this mystery bell crank on the bike I'm making. Anyway, I'll post a picture of that sometime on the Instagram, because I'm clearly proud of it, because I wouldn't have mentioned it otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, keeping it, but I'm trying to mix it up. Just even little things like that is what I'm saying, is just enough to keep me on my toes. And maybe everyone's going to want a bell crank on their bike.
There you go. Next hot trend.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we went live. You've got a wait list of a couple of years. Is that daunting, or does that provide security?
Well, maybe a little bit of both. The daunting part is that, like, when it comes time for me to like contact the person who I haven't spoken to in years, about their bike, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that bike, yeah, oh my God, well, I'm not ready right now," and I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll just come back to you." And my communication skills are, like, in terms of like keeping up to date with MailChimp and sending out updates, is not good. It's just like, I'm hoping they all watch this right now and say, I am going to get to your bike. And but yeah, I do contact people, and then sometimes they're like, oh, I've been waiting for this call. I'm like, oh, thank God. Because like a lot of people are like, not yet. And then I'm like going down the list. I'm like, ooh, that's kind of nerve-wracking. But it is. So that's the nerve-wracking part. But then it's also technically like, those people do want bikes eventually. So yeah, it's nice that it's there. And I do always recommend that people contact their local builder first. Like, it's so, that experience for me of going to Circle A right down the street and going there and seeing the progress, or just having a bad day at work and going there and annoying the hell out of Chris by just looking at a bike that's in progress, was just really meant a lot to me. And so if someone is local, I have a couple local bikes coming up and I'm excited about, to see your bike being made is just a fantastic thing to experience. So I always tell people to like go local first.
Yeah. In terms of running the business, how much time, what percentage of time is spent doing the customer service businessy stuff as opposed to the frame building stuff?
Oh man, yeah, there's a lot. I'm at the computer screen a lot, like just like sending emails, or one of my like personal like things I love to do is ordering parts. And there's nothing available now, so I don't really get to do it too often. But like I love going and ordering parts. It's like going shopping for something I'm just going to sell right away. But like it's for shopping for something that's already sold. But yeah, but it's just fun to put something in a cart and just like and buy it, and then it's fun to get packages in the mail. This is like a little thing I like. So yeah, I'll put my address in here at the end, so feel free to care packages. But yeah, I like opening boxes of parts. That's like always exciting, especially if people are ordering like super nice stuff, or if I get to order, I don't know, just anything, whatever. Anyway, so I do like,
you get to live vicariously through the customer. If they get like some crazy baller parts, you're like, ooh, I've always wondered what these are like.
Right? Yeah. Oh my God. One time, can I share a quick story about like so I don't get to like I don't. And it's not that I don't have nice parts. I mean, I get parts and then I'll ride them until they are not even looking like parts anymore. Like I have a pair of like Randonneuring cranks that look like someone took a hammer to them. But I got to order Onyx Hubs for a customer one time, and they, and I'm not an Onyx spokesperson, but I like I'm coming from a BMX background where I ride free coaster, and it's just that silence of just you, and it's just tires and road. And I got on this bike that I built, and it had the Onyx, whatever, the silent clutch, and it was just the most. And it was a mountain bike, and it was just like I was on a trail. I'm just like, am I hovering? Like, it was
cool.
such a beautiful experience. And I can't afford those hubs, but I did get to enjoy them for a little ride around the block on that bike.
Nice. We got a question here from Sean Gould. Any plans to take on apprentice and pass what you've learned to the next generation?
Oh,
well,
maybe if I ever get a bigger shop. Like, it is honestly like you're looking at like most of the shop, like right here. It's 16 by 20, and it's barely enough room for me. And so I'm not going to take anyone on, but I'm trying to share as much knowledge as possible. And for any new builders out there, I encourage them to contact either me or their local builder, and they can, I mean, if they don't share, they're jerks, but they should just like tell you everything you need to know, and like just help in any way, like to get like someone off the ground, like just to, even like if it's just giving them a lug set or something, or just telling them how to do their seat stays if they're doing fast back curves. Any just little tips. I mean, there is the Paterick manual, which has everything one would ever need in those videos. I learned how to fillet braze from Tim Paterick on a TV, on a VCR.
Oh, you got the VHS version.
Yes, yeah, 2 tapes. And so yeah, that's how. And I after watching the video, I built a BMX bike because I was like, that'll be the ultimate test. And so I bought a bunch of temper BMX tubing and built a flatland frame in 2006. My brother has it now, but it's still going strong. And but yeah, that, I mean, it's just there's a lot of places to learn, a lot of people to learn, a lot of schools. And I think if you're looking for that crash course, like, or if I could go back, I would probably go to like UBI, Metal Guru, Yamaguchi, any one of those schools, depending like on what kind of building you want to do. Because you can learn a lot in 2 weeks. You really can. But you just need to practice for a few years, and then things start to come out okay.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I always thought it'd be cool if there was, I don't know if you're familiar. I used to get all these ads on YouTube as for this website called like Master Class or something. And it's kind of like Skillshare, but with famous people. So you learn photography from Annie Leibovitz, this 10-part, video series on how to take photos with Annie Leibovitz, or screenplay writing with, some famous screenplay artists. It'd be awesome to, I don't know if, as a component of NABS or something, where there's kind of this digital teaching component from well-known builders, so that people can learn or siphon some knowledge.
Well, I think, I mean, so there are actual masters out there. It's not me, but so if I ever am like in a bind or I have a question, there are builders like Peter Weigel or Richard Sachs.
Yeah, he should totally have his like own Skillshare thing. He'd make buku bucks online.
You're onto something. I'm not going to organize it, but like what I'm saying is like you can email them and they'll probably email you back because they're actual people. Right. And they're of course they're actual people, but like they're just like you and me. Except they've been building bikes for like 45 years.
Yeah.
So they've made all the mistakes 10 times back in the 70s, and then they think you're crazy when you make that mistake or whatever. But no, they're very, like Peter in particular has been very helpful to me. Just as someone I can call and just bounce ideas off of. Yeah,
I'd love to get him on. I'm super intimidated by contacting him, but. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Speaking of like legends, and schools and stuff, I would go back to Metal Guru just to learn fillet brazing from Stephen Belenky. I can fillet braze. I mean, I video myself fillet brazing, but I just want to see how he does it, because they come out like his are like, that's good, and it is good. It's like perfect. There are other people, and even like newer builders like Monet, who can just like lay a Curtis style fillet, and just like, it's beautiful. Curtis, the UK fillet brazier, makes a lot of jumping bikes and stuff, but they're just like, I don't know. I can always learn more.
Right.
Maybe. I hope.
Cool. Well, we're about 15 minutes. I think we'll go for like maybe another 5 or 10. And there's 230 people in the chat. So if you guys have questions for Brian, leave them in the YouTube comments. Otherwise, I will go back to the Instagram and we'll watch more process videos. So what's going on in this one?
Oh, that's I'm making a pair of or a set of cantilever brakes on that one. And so most of the stuff, like the cranks or the brakes that I make, are on just this one plate that has like 1,000 holes in it in the shop. It's actually right behind me right there. And it's just each, I don't know if you can see in the video, but like I stamp in what the holes are for. So there's like there's a P, a pivot, and like so anyway, it's just a flat plate just to keep things flat, but it's also the biggest heat sink in the entire world. So it's not like the best thing to be building off of, hence all like the black that's right there. But but I'll just tack it on there, and then I'll take it out and put it in my little holder thing, which is actually just a vice grip. And but that I welded like a thing I can put it in a park stand. And then I make it look like that. It's magic. Yay! So yeah,
all that in like 60 seconds.
I know. It's the magic of editing out all the garbage of me just sitting there.
How long does it take to what's the actual build time to make a brake?
Oh, is it one arm or just like the whole the
whole set?
I would say it takes. I mean, it takes me forever to do anything. Like to make a cup of coffee, it'll probably take like another half day or something. But yeah, it takes me about a day and a half to make them, and and to finish, and like to have them all like drilled out. And then I'm not showing the part here where I have to turn all this little hardware on the lathe and knurl these little bolts that hold the cables, and then I make the straddle hangers, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not showing there. But anyway, it can be intense. It can go on for a couple days.
Yeah. So when I see that and think, man, that's crazy. Like what's for you? Yeah, what's the joy in that for you?
Why are you doing this? What is your problem, man?
Well, no, I'm just trying to. I'm not very mechanically inclined, so that's
yeah. Well, I mean, so I build a lot of racks, and I use the same bender. Like, if you look at any of my racks, you'll see like you're like, man, that's the same radius for everything except for like the whole platform. And I end up with a lot of little scraps, and I was like, oh, I could make something out of these. And I was like, I've been toying with the idea of making brakes, like Paul Brody style, like just like taking a hunk of aluminum and just like cutting them down and making this beautiful thing. But instead I was like, I work in steel. And so I was like, I'm going to make steel brakes. And when you think of steel brakes, you think of like, cheap caliper brakes from the 80s that don't stop. So I was like, I got to make these really good. And I got to make the geometry so they actually stop. So, so yeah, I played around with this. So my friend Benno made this. It was a JavaScript thing that you could move the straddle and the pivots, and you could see how the mechanical advantage would change depending on like where you put if you had like a low profile, like a Paul Touring Canty as opposed to the Neo Retro, like how does the mechanical advantage change, and how can you really maximize it? So I wanted modulation. For some cannies, that means like, oh, they don't work ever. But that means like, or you can have some that are like super low profile and they just like lock up and they work all the time. So it's like an on-off switch. But I found these were a good balance. And I have like the Cool Stop Salmons on my bike, and they stop fantastic. I go down some really just garbage trails and I need to stop really fast sometimes. And so, yeah, they work. And so I try to do all the testing myself on the parts before I let them go out into the world, because that would be careless on my part.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Well, I mean, people aren't asking questions. I think they're just enthralled by your beautiful B-roll in your Instagram feed is what's happening. Okay. Simon here ask him about his engineering background.
Oh, well, I mean, I went to school for engineering. So I have a degree in mechanical engineering, but I'm like, and then I didn't get jobs in engineering. I got jobs in IT because I worked doing like computer work all through college, and but of course I have this degree in engineering, and I'm working in IT. And what do? I go down to part-time doing the IT, and I work in a bike shop because I missed it so much. So like in the late 90s, I was working with friends at Providence Bicycle. I would work this was crazy, because I would work the morning at Brown, and I'd get out there at like 1:30, and I would go work at Providence Bicycle, and then after that, I would go to Circle A. I was just like working nonstop, and it totally like destroyed my life at the time. But if I could go back, I would just kind of like pace myself a little.
Do you find that you're, after all these years, still as obsessed with bicycles, or has it been tempered? Have things become more complicated, your relationship to bikes, or are you still super passionate about bikes?
I love bikes. I just like you know what I think? I mean, they develop and change over time. I have this road bike that I take out once in a while, and it's okay. But I'm just like, I'm so focused on doing like mixed terrain rides, like just exploring old roads, because that's what old men do. They look at maps and they like. But yeah, that's I'm like a stereotype, I guess. But I don't know. I do like riding BMX still. And I feel good. My shins don't feel good, but I feel good after riding a lot of flatland. And it's just what I did with what flatland did for me, flatland BMX, was it helped me. It just is a way to clear my mind. It was just like a way just to focus on like, I want to land this time machine trick, like, and I'm going to just sit here and I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to change little things, and I'm going to try to make it better, and I'm going to try to stay up longer. I'm going to do this. And then like when it's not working and you're getting frustrated, you just take a breath and you go on to like doing your weird hang 5 to half pack, or like another different like string or something that I'm working on. And I'm like, it was just and I would spend like probably like maybe 2-3 hours of riding, and it was good for my brain, good for mostly for my body. And I still enjoy it. And so when I go out, I do all like kind of like just basic tricks, because I'm almost 50, so I'm like kind of like I can't do like all the old stuff, not as strong as I used to. But I do enjoy riding flatland and riding like my purple rando bike that I have.
Yeah, it seems as if like a lot of kind of the mental tenacity of sessioning a flatland trick would carry over a lot into kind of the same tasks and problem solving and frame building. Maybe I haven't analyzed it too much, but the idea of like I think it's like Rodney Mullen, who's like he does like big talks on failure, and like like flatland is it's just me crashing for like 3 hours and then I hit a trick. It's like understanding failure and like accepting it, that's part of the process. It's helped me with that. I guess skateboarding, obviously Rodney Mullen has like the same effect. Yeah. I feel like that about YouTube. I just churn out videos and hope one of them becomes good enough.
Yeah. Well, they're great.
Cool. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you to the folks that are still in the YouTube chat. If you guys have enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check out Brian's Instagram for more process videos, or his website if you want to order a bike. And any last parting words while we have you here?
You know, I don't know. I get a lot of requests on Instagram about like, or just asking, or there's the best comment that I get all the time is like, it just says like, and it's like, it's not from the same person, it's from different people. It's just like, I want to do this. And I'm like, I'm like, great. I'm like, that's great. But I'm like, and then I'm like thinking, I was like, man, that's awesome. But I'm like, keep watching the videos. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. Maybe, and then sometimes I get like a message asking for an apprenticeship or how to get started. And I always recommend schools. And if they're a total like DIY person, maybe like the Patrick manual or something. But it's something that I encourage people to do though. And so when they say, I want to do this, I'm like, I believe you. You should try it. And when people come to the shop, when Cheech and Nam were here doing the interview, I just put the torch in their hand and I had them braise like a water bottle boss, just to see like, this isn't a glue gun. This is actually, you're heating up metal and you're melting metal to put two pieces of metal together. And it's just that feeling of that first time when you're like, oh, I was like, that's how it's done. It does, maybe it takes a little bit of the magic away, but I want everyone to like, to see the process and understand how it's done. And so it seems within reach. But there is a lot to it, but so learning from another human really helps.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Well, on that note, thanks, Brian, for being on the YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll see you in person again at Philly Bike Expo.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Fingers crossed that everything turns out. And thank you, everybody that has stuck around for an hour and 2 minutes. There's 200 of you. So don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. And as always, everybody, keep the supple